Hello, welcome. Thanks for watching this video on building the climbing wall. Let's open up with the scene where I'm driving back with 14 3-meter lengths and 4 18mm plywood boards. Just about fit inside the Mazda Bongo. I had to lower the seats and put it all in flat. So they're pushed right up against my back there. Not super comfortable. Now here I show you a quick tour of the room. Now it doesn't always look this chaotic. We actually have it quite nice sometimes, but over the last year or so, stuff had been accumulating, and basically what you see there is everything from the back pushed to the front so that I can do this work. So it's all a bit compressed. So I moved all the sheets up, all the plywood up. Not a super easy task when you're on your own either. Thankfully had help for the last 2 sheets. And then sort of 2 hours later, I had 4 pieces attached. It did actually take me a while to figure out where everything was and where it should have been and how long it should have been. A bit of a slow start. They're all attached with 10mm structural bolts and all into joists and studs. So it was quite solid once on the wall. Then I had to move the boards into a better place because obviously once the frame's built I need to get them up on the outside of the wall. I had to check the edges didn't get too damaged, shifting them over all this lot. Everything was fine, no real issues. Thought I could sand it out anyway in the end. These boards, it turns out, were 2.44 after a quick measurement by 1.22, which is bigger than planned. Had to adjust my plans somewhat, and this had a knock-on effect with the noggins, as you'll see shortly. So here I'm sort of trying to measure the center stud, sort of what kind of height we can estimate that to be. Maybe, yeah, took that, marked it off, and then tried to get an angle on the fall of the ceiling as well. I think I've worked it out to be something along 5 degrees at least on the set square. But oh yeah, here's my sort of safety shoes and safety technique. Guys, don't replicate that. You might see more of that, and that's obviously a what not to do example. So here we go, plumbing up, trying to get this center stud perfect so that we have half of each sheet on it in a vertical direction. What you'll see as we go on is the floor and the ceiling, like, they're not going to be, especially with all the angles involved, as true as they would want to be. Here I pre-drilled, by the way, just if that helps. Always stops messing around with the screw, pushing things around too much. Not so much a pocket, just a pre-drilled hole. This is the V2 of the plan, and showing where I was actually going to double frame it in the middle, but I decided for costs and it just wasn't necessary. Like, I think the double framing, if you make the frames on the ground and then lift them into place, but you know, obviously as you can see I have 0 room for that, and I can just build in situ in this case. So now I'm measuring up the centers for the sort of more central studs for each sheet, and they are going to help me, sort of make everything more rigid and make sure the sheets don't knock as we're climbing on them. I'm going to sort of drill into every one and make sure that the boards are on really tightly, as much as possible. More of the safety techniques. Yeah. Always wear the right footwear and protective gear, guys. What you might see here is a miscut. I think I might have miscut twice here, actually. What happened was when I put the central one on, I think it pushed any slack in the roof upwards in the center of that long run. Shouldn't be slack, should there? But and so the measurements were thrown out by the time I pushed that out of the way. Thankfully they got reused. Further down the line you'll see that. And here I'm just putting in the noggins, which had to be cut from a spare piece. Thankfully I didn't do the double framing. I had some spares left over in that respect, And they're all slightly offset, obviously, so we can get them in. Here you can see the T-nuts and some attempt to get the camera to look in the right direction. Now, the T-nuts are great things. We'll talk more about them as we go on, but I started off with a bag of 250 from Amazon, and that wasn't going to be enough for the whole build, so I had to make a call about whether I get the holds with the extra 100 T-nuts they were supplying with them, or whether I just buy another 250 bag, which is actually what I ended up doing, spoiler alert. And so the noggins are in, the frame is rigidified, and now we move on to the inclined wall. I kind of had to figure this out on the fly as we went. I did have a vague plan of bolting in that left-hand piece into the studs on the wall. It's into 2 or 3 studs. And we have the central piece in now, and the right-hand piece with a top member across it. It's not tilted in the direction I would have liked it to. And that being on the outside of the other beam, I wasn't super happy about either. So I shored it all up in the middle with some extra pieces, but honestly it was super rigid, and I had a plan to do one more tie at the top as well to really help with that forward motion when a body is pulling down on the board. So the noggins are in. That extra piece went up top. That's actually got a dual purpose that will come into play later. And the boards are laid down and lined up so that I can get these holes drilled in. Now, it's a very thick thing to be drilling through, so I had to draw the grid on. The decision to go for 150mm holes instead of 200mm was made clearer by the time I realised that the boards were 1.22 and 2.44 because they're 8 feet by 4 feet boards. So the measurements were all still in imperial, and I hadn't realised that at this point, I think most of the way through the end of the second day. So I drew out the grid as accurately as I could with the straight edges you can see there. I'm obviously not going to buy a brand new straight edge for a job like this. I mean, any small variations are not really a problem, and also a lot of people, when they make these walls, they make random holes. I wouldn't necessarily do that because I'd worry that things would be too close or too far. I quite like the order and the visual look of the grid, but some people offset them slightly, so every 3 inches they'll do a 6-inch hole, if you know what I mean. So the first hole is raised, the first row is raised, the second row is lowered, and so on and so forth. But I kept it simple, and then I worked through I started on the SDS thinking that would be just powerful enough to blast through. Wasn't a wood bit, and I only had a wood bit big enough for the hand drill, so I did that. And it was quite a lot of work, and it took quite a while, so this is like phase 1 of me figuring it out. And then I banged in a T-nut just to check 12mm bits were okay for this situation, and it was, so that needed to come out later. But that wasn't a problem. So we're drilling through. We've got, basically, if you do 6-inch holes instead of 8-inch centers, you get like an extra, I worked it out before. It's nearly half again, so you get loads more choice. It's a lot more work. I would have done a lot better here if I had like a drill jig I've seen people using. You just move it along, lower the drill. It's like, a dream to use. But I had this big SDS drill. I had to lift and lower 100 and so over many times, and we sort of battled on through the first few rows, trying to figure out how long it would take. I had the timer running the whole time for each row. I think that might be 1 or 2 rows. That was
and time for a break.
Just a lot of work for the first
So 1, 2,
row,
3,
and I can
4,
just start to
5,
see now
6,
with
7,
what I
8,
count to be
9,
15 rows left.
11, 12, 13, 14.
Sort of the hour or 2 or more stretching out ahead of me.
We're good to go. I'm just doing some drillations.
Okay. Have a look. Oh yeah. This stinks in there.
Yeah, it's pretty woody.
It smells like burnt popcorn.
It smells like wood.
It smells like burnt popcorn.
Are the handholds here yet?
Oh! Wait, I think so.
You alright, darling?
What are you doing now?
Just drilling the holes so we can put the climbing holds on there. That's the slopey wall at the back, the hard one. Can you see it? You need to master that. That's the normal wall.
Can I help?
No, baby, I need to get on with it with the headphones on as well. Thanks for offering. Love you.
And so on with the drilling after those visits from the kids after school. Slightly painstaking. There's an endless amount of sawdust created below as well. I would have loved to have done this outside. I did keep thinking how I could make that happen, but the boards are just so heavy. They all need lining up well. I haven't really got a sawhorse that can handle this. They're all raised up at the moment on some blocks, some 2x4s, so they're off the ground enough. I checked the bit heights, and so I'm not going to accidentally drill through my floor, even if I, over push it a little bit. It was all quite laborious, but in the end, I figured something out.
Yeah, a bit of a game-changing discovery here. Found a chucking bit on the SDS drill. So I just put a line of holes in, only 10mm, but I'm going to do like all of the rows in 10mm, then go back over in 12. Honestly, that was like 1 minute or 2 minutes. I'm an idiot, but also I figured it out before halfway, so yeah, idiocy averages. Okay, see you when I'm done. Wonder can you see that? 4:30 p.m. All done, up to 10mm. Just going to go over with 12mm. That was 28 minutes for the remaining, 14 rows? Maybe not that many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 or 12. Yeah, much quicker. Can't believe it took me half an hour for the first 4. And then the same again for the rest, but there we go. I'm actually not done yet either. I need to do the 13, the 12mm. But yeah, let's blast that out. 15 minutes, hopefully 20 minutes. And we're good. A bit of a sweat on. Bit of a glisten. All in a day's work.
Then it was onto the T-nuts, and in this case, I was testing the different hammers. I've got the maul, the normal hammer, and the lump hammer. It turned out, actually, after a few tests, that the normal hammer is actually the best thing to use. Everything else is heavy and needs more strikes and accuracy anyway. So I finished up the night before and left T-nuts for the morning. We figured out which hammer to use. It's a relatively quick process. They did need up to 10 hits each to get through the 12mm hole. Looks like the hammer's floating here, but we can quickly work through these. You can see the dust that was in the room there. And then I got a board up in the end, and here I'm telling the camera that actually 6-inch holes are perfect. Nothing is falling on a stud, so you can put the bolt of the hold through and there will never be any issue knocking against a stud behind it. So I pinned that to the wall. And these are kind of what the boards look like as they came up, quite clean, but the last board obviously had the blowouts on the back. That will always be the back of the board, so I'm not too concerned, but you can see what kind of mess it makes if you do it wrong. Quick comparison there. And there was a lot of sawdust and dust everywhere to clean up as well, so bear that in mind. So this is a bit of panels on the wall, first look. I didn't have any mats at that stage, so we've only put down some softer things to sort of protect a tiny bit, and then we've got the holds have arrived. Start to put 1 or 2 on, start to get a few more on, and eventually okay, it's 2 days later. I think when I left you, all of the holes were just about drilled in, the T-nuts being hammered in, and then it was just a case of laying them up against the frame, pinning them in, and then battening down the corners and whatnot. Cutting the tops, not great cuts, to be honest. The floor in here is terrible. The handsaw, I'd struggle to keep in a straight line. And I'm not going to point out all the flaws, but basically there's some gaps around some edges. It's not stopping anything from working. Everything's pinned down with lots of 100mm screws. So held down nicely in the corner. I've put some smaller screws in just to pin it in places as well. We've got we've had some test runs. The kids came in straight away, obviously wanting to have a go, so I pinned a few holds on, and then we ended up just pinning nearly all of them on. Got a handful left. This is what's left. Literally just a few little footholds and grips and things. And then we were talking about with the spare board potentially coming overhead one day as well, which could be a great idea or it could be chaotic. We'll see about that. The other thought is to run monkey bars from there to the top wall, basically. So you climb to the top, then you monkey down, start again, or something along those lines. The space behind here, I shouldn't show you this, but it's not been sorted. I've just stuck things in there to hide them. That is the role, obviously, as a storage space, but I want it well sorted and functional, pegboards on walls and all that jazz. But right now it's just holding stuff that used to be out in the room. That's basically the end of the project. It took about, what was it, £280 in wood. The boards cost 160 of that, 4 times 40 more or less. The holds were about 125. There's a Black Friday offer on today. So I could have paid £25 less and got a free mug, but generally, yeah, everything's where it needs to be on the right time as well. It took about a week to arrive, so I'm glad they arrived sort of on the day after I got everything up. I had to order one more bag of tea nuts, so I now have a spare 150 so tea nuts. Just because I knew there wasn't going to be enough with the 100 they were sending, so I just grabbed another off Amazon, 250 bag. I think it's the Alpidex ones. They work fine. There were some complaints about the, what do you call them, the tines or the sharp bits, the spikes breaking off. No issue whatsoever. Each one needed about 10 strikes, shall we say, some less, some more, to get into the 12mm hole, and over those thousands of strikes, nothing broke, everything went well. So here it is in use. I'll leave you with a few shots of the kids enjoying it. I've had a few climbs, my wife's had a few climbs, some of their friends have had some climbs as well. It's all going really quite well. Every now and then a sort of a hold will be loose in the hole, but that's not the fault of the T-nuts. They're not slipping. It's just how tight it gets applied. So I'm trying to find that balance between tightening up until it won't tighten anymore and not cracking the resin of the hold, obviously. We think just a good firm tighten is enough. We're not doing it with a drill or anything. We're just doing it by hand. Tempted to do it with a drill, to be honest, because I don't see it causing too much damage. The T-nut just pull in quite a lot at the back, I'd imagine. But yeah, all very solid. The kids are enjoying setting roots. My son is 11. He's been enjoying sort of really stretching himself on this inclined wall. I didn't mention earlier the incline is about 17 degrees. That's not, very much by climbing standards, but we're all beginners, and we thought we'd just start there. I think in the future, because the boards and all the hard work is done, we can probably just remove the boards, tilt everything back, add a bit more framework, but that will be for another weekend for sure. I'll leave it like this for now and we'll enjoy it as it is. The sort of main point of this room was to have a storage room behind, as mentioned earlier, so to have this is kind of a bonus, and it's just become the focus a little bit, obviously, but yeah, so we can see that they've spent quite a lot of time already on it, and they're quite keen to go to the local climbing wall now that they've had lots of practice. They've got things like matching, dynamic moves, what else is it we've seen on YouTube that they've been doing, yeah, even route setting and that sort of thing they've been enjoying. So it's not a huge wall, it's a decent space, but it's given them lots of nice experience in terms of bouldering. And of course the guy who inspired it all, a bit of Magnus. Thanks for watching, guys. Happy climbing.